Since I was 13, my mom somehow knew that computer science is going to be, kind of big and like needed in the future. So she did send me to this like it's called tuition classes in Sri Lanka, but it's like private classes outside of school.
Hey there, good people in crypto land. I'm Matt Lysing, and this is my podcast, Decent People. Welcome to the conversation. On the show today is Kosala Hemachandra, the founder and CEO of MyEtherWallet. That was the first Ethereum wallet to come onto the market in 2015. And I talked with Kosala about growing up in Sri Lanka, about how his mom wanted him to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, which is one more option than I was given as a child by my parents. We talk about him working on the Ethereum testnet before it had gone public and how exciting it was to be actually writing code and working on ways to make Ethereum better before it had even launched. And we kind of finished the conversation by talking about how developers in Ethereum and other smart contract systems can build products that are easier to use for a mass audience. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. Let's get to it. Okay, so I know that you are based in LA these days, Kosala, but did you grow up here or tell me a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I did. I was born and in a way raised in Sri Lanka up until I was 17. And then when I was 17, I decided, okay, it's time for me to go outside of Sri Lanka and continue my education. And two choices were London and LA. And because of a friend who was here, I decided, okay, Los Angeles is the place. And then I'm just going to
Good
go to
choice.
LA. Yeah, I do. I am 100% sure I made the right choice on that one. And then, yeah, I went to school here. I did computer engineering. I went to CSUN, and graduated from there. And then towards my like senior year, that's when I actually really got into crypto.
Okay. We'll get to that. But first of all, what was it like growing up in Sri Lanka? Do you come from a big family, or what? And what part of the country were you in?
I was I mean, Sri Lanka is a pretty small island in a way when you compare. I think it's smaller than LA County. So that's how small it is.
Wow, for real?
And
Had no
yeah.
idea. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I kind of grew up in like the center part of the island and then moved towards the capital, which is Colombo, which is the I think most famous city in Sri Lanka. So yeah, I kind of switched between two schools while I was studying there. I initially studied in this one area called Anuradhapura, which is like in center of Sri Lanka, and then I went to school there until sixth grade, and then moved to Royal College, which was in Colombo, it still is in Colombo, and then that's where I studied up until I was 17 years old. And then yeah, so and then yeah, I'm the only kid, so
What were
it
you
was
What were
really
you interested in school? Like, did you just kind of do it, or did you find something that like actually kind of grabbed your interest as a child?
to be honest, initially, so up until 17, I was going to be a doctor. I
Okay.
think it's mainly like Asian parents either wants an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer. Like those three are the options. And then my mom really wanted me to be a doctor.
It's not just Asian parents, man. My parents said the same thing. It was
Same.
doctor or lawyer. Yeah, I had two
Those are
choices.
the things, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, so
Yeah, we
your
have
mom
that
really
engineer
wanted you.
extra.
Mhm. Yeah, you got the
Yeah.
engineer. Yep, that's
So
a bonus.
so yeah, she definitely wanted me to be a doctor. And I mean, yeah, up until I was 17, I like did everything in that career path, studying wise and
Hmm.
everything. But like uh, somehow, like I spent most of my time at the computer lab at school.
Yeah.
So deep inside, that's what I wanted. And I think as I was growing up, my mom realized that too. She was a big supporter for me to, move out of the country, even though I was the only child. It was definitely hard for her, and then definitely hard for me as well to just like. Before that, I've never been to an outside country, like except from Sri Lanka. Like I never been
Okay.
to any
Yeah.
other country, and never been on a plane. So it was definitely a tough decision, hard decision, and she was supportive, even though deep down, I know for 100%, I'm sure that she was, sad to let me go, and as a parent. But yeah, and then 17, I was like, okay, I have to do this. I have to at least give it a shot. If things doesn't work out in a year, I can always come back.
You were going to English speaking schools. Is that how it worked? Like the Royal Academy you mentioned?
Um, to be honest, a lot of people, I think, because it was like we were part of like British colony. We were like one of the colonized countries. So ever since then, English became a mandatory part of school curriculum.
Okay.
So there's like at least guaranteed like 5 classes per week, or like 3 to 5 classes per week in every school. If they can have an English teacher, there are obviously rural areas that like you cannot really have an English
Sure.
teacher. But I was definitely lucky in that side of things, because both schools that I went to had like English teachers to teach English. So before I came to US, I was somewhat, like I had the ability to speak, write, all that. So
Yeah.
somewhat
Cool.
familiar.
And when you say you spent all your time in the computer lab, were you actually coding at that point, or were you playing Tetris, or like what was it about computers
I
that drew
was
you in?
I was definitely coding since I was 13. So there's also this thing I've actually never heard of it in the US. Maybe it's happening in like one small part of school curriculum. It's called Computer Science Olympiad. It's like Olympic version of programming. It's like you're competing with other programmers to write the most optimized code in like a couple of hours,
Yeah, I've heard of that. I don't know if
like the
they're,
Olympiad.
yeah, or, well, I mean, a hackathon is sort of along those lines, right? But
Yeah,
I've heard of other where there's team competitions where you have to code to, like, a robot has to do some task and like you're given an hour, right?
yeah,
Or
exactly. Or
stuff like
like
that.
find, okay, what is the shortest path to do, or like what's the most efficient program to figure out
Hmm.
this calculation. So I was getting trained for that when I was like 15, just because I was in the computer lab all the time, and then teachers over there like, oh yeah, you want to like get trained for this? I was like, yes, sure, like I'll let me give it a shot. And like it's something like that. And then since I was 13, my mom somehow knew that computer science is going to be, kind of big and like needed in the future. So she did send me to this like it's called tuition classes in Sri Lanka, but it's like private classes outside of school.
Sure. Yeah.
So for like a couple of hours a day, or like a couple of hours a week, she used to send me to these like classes. And ever since then, I kind of like, grew up coding, learning things, and I always definitely had the eagerness to learn coding for
That's
sure.
great. Yeah. What was your mom? What did she do for her living?
She's a teacher.
Okay. So she,
She's a teacher, and then eventually she became a principal. Now she's retired.
yeah. But that makes sense. She might have seen that coming, through her teaching
Yeah,
career, or just like what was like kind of reading the writing on the wall.
yeah,
Was your dad around, or was he part of the picture?
yeah. So they're definitely separated now, but like growing up, I maybe they were together until I was like 3 years old. So I don't remember much about my dad growing up, but he's definitely like the engineering part is definitely coming from him, because he was an engineer
Hmm.
at like a big telecommunication company in Sri Lanka. So I know 100% that's like coding side, logical side, all that is coming from his side. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, we are still in talking terms, so I have nothing like, but like I grew up with my mom mainly.
Yeah. That's great that she was so supportive of you going into computer
Yeah.
science and everything. What else were you doing? Were you playing sports? Were you like hanging around in the streets getting into trouble, or were you a pretty good kid?
Um, I think if one thing I hated is doing outdoor sports.
Yeah.
I played chess for a while.
Okay.
So I was like, I'll do anything that doesn't make me sweat. Also, speaking of that, I did swimming for a while too. It doesn't make you sweat, like you sweat inside the pool. So
Yeah, you're immediately
it was
washed right off.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did, if anything, as a sport, only thing that I did was like a physical sport was swimming.
Okay.
Definitely not like a very outdoorsy person. Did play chess for a little while. Um, that's basically it. Other than that, I was just like, you know,
So you mentioned earlier
learning,
that
studying.
your choices to go abroad were either London or Los Angeles. Did you?
Yeah.
And I think you might have said you had friends in both of those places, and that's what made the choice. Like that's why you were choosing between those two, or did I get that wrong?
Yeah, so like the friend who was in London was like through my mom. So but like the friend who was in LA was like through me, like I got to know him,
Mhm.
and he moved to LA, and then I was like, okay, like I feel like Los Angeles is much better. Like I wanna go there because that's where all the tech companies, right? Like as a 17-year-old, you don't do like extreme research. You're like, where are the tech companies? Like I want to go there.
Yeah.
And then also before coming in, I thought like San Francisco and LA is super close to each other. Um, I definitely learned my lesson.
Yeah. That's great. So what year are we talking? When did you come to LA? And you were now
2019, 2009. Sorry, not 2019, 2009.
2009.
2019 was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Seems like 12 years ago,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
and what so okay, that was right after the financial crisis. But you are now going to be a freshman at CSUN.
No, I initially went to Glendale College,
Oh, really?
and then
Oh,
from
wow.
Glendale, I transferred to CSUN.
Oh, that's funny. That's my hometown, Glendale. That's where I grew
Oh,
up.
really?
Yeah, I used to play baseball on that field at
Oh, wow.
Glendale College. Yeah,
It's a really beautiful college.
yeah, yeah. Uh, okay, so but then computer science was always sort of the goal here. That was like what you were heading for.
Yeah, so the moment I moved here, I did computer science, and then eventually I switched to computer engineering because I was like, okay, I know the programming side of things. Like I want to learn something new. So computer engineering more like computer science plus engineering side of things, like how the processors work,
So
how
is
to
that like
build your own
hardware? Yeah,
processor.
like
Yeah,
hardware
yeah,
design sort of things.
exactly.
Okay,
So eventually I graduated with computer engineering.
okay, and that was from CSUN.
Yeah.
Yeah. What where did you think you were going at that point? Like that. So if you started in 2009, you were out like 2013. That was pretty early for Bitcoin, right?
Unfortunately, I did not graduate that fast because, like, there's also a lot of lessons that as a immigrant student you have to learn because no one is there to teach you. Is that there are different curriculums that you have to follow. If you're going to UC, it's a different one. If you're going to
Right.
CS system, it's a different one. And I was following the UC for a while, and then I was like, oh, I can't afford a UC university, so I have to do CS, which is casted, for
Yeah.
those who are not familiar. And then I had to switch. So like my graduation year was 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
What as you were going through all that though, like what was your plan? Did you have a plan of like, okay, I'm going to get this degree and I want to, work for a startup or I want to go work for Microsoft or like did you have like a
Uh,
vision in mind or
I always knew I had to do a computer software job, and then this is also where like you mentioned you were talking with Taylor before. This is also where I actually met Taylor. I was a software programmer for this company based in Gardena.
Mhm.
And then around the same time I joined, she also joined the company as a web designer.
Okay.
So
And
it
that's
kind of
Taylor
set my
Monahan,
path.
Taylor
Yeah.
Monahan, your co-founder with my Ethereum wallet.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, okay, so you guys, you meet her, and that's sort of like South Bay area of Los Angeles, right? Sort of near Manhattan
Yeah. In
Beach,
Gardena.
right? Where she was, I think she
Yeah.
grew up. And okay, so, but was crypto like in the mix for you yet? Or when did that sort of like hit
No,
your radar?
no. I'm definitely gonna say I was one of those people in 2009 or like 2010. That time, I did hear about Bitcoin, but I was like, I'm not gonna do anything about this like
Hmm.
scam internet token that like everyone thinks gonna be big.
Totally. It's all ones and zeros. How can it be worth anything?
Yeah, I was like, what is this thing? Like, I can't make sense of anything. But towards my senior, like, so this is 2014, 15. Uh, I looked into, so I got back into Bitcoin. So I like bought a Bitcoin miner and all that because like I fell in love with the technology behind it, not the actual like the
Hmm.
token because it's didn't real I still didn't understand okay what's like what it can do, what's the purpose of it, but like I really fell in love with the technology and started learning more about it, and then that's when kind of like Ethereum yellow paper came out, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is at least 100x better than Bitcoin. Don't get me wrong, Bitcoin lovers, like I love Bitcoin still, like nothing wrong with Bitcoin, but um facts are that okay, Bitcoin can do certain things and Ethereum can do certain things, and Ethereum can like back in the day I was like at least like 100x better. So I'm just gonna keep following this like what's happening with Bitcoin, I mean Ethereum, and that's what led to 2015 August they launched the mainnet, and then I was on Reddit looking up, hey, and then like reading about Ethereum, and then people were having million different questions: how to unlock their wallet or the pre-sale wallet, how to send transactions, send tokens, and all that.
Yeah, because it
And
was
then
kind of complicated, right? Maybe we could walk through that with people because so
yeah,
what we're talking about here is when Ethereum did a crowd sale. Basically, it sold Ether that didn't exist yet, basically for Bitcoin, so you could buy in, but
yeah.
so you had to send them your Bitcoin to a certain wallet, but it was really kind of clunky, right, and rather onerous.
This was yeah, no, this was definitely after. So like that part happened. That's the pre-sale, right? You send Bitcoin, and then they'll give you
Yeah.
some tokens that doesn't exist yet. And I think honestly though,
Well, yeah,
people who
that
invested
is
in
that,
Ethereum
but
invest.
like you didn't need your wallet until they were ready to give you the Ether, which was like a year later or
Yeah,
something.
which
So
is in
that's like
2015 August.
yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's where it seems like the user experience was pretty bad, and it wasn't really like conducive to a lot of people jumping in there.
yeah. It was definitely command line, right? Like people. I mean, coders are amazing, but like they did a really good job actually getting Ethereum up and running. But like there was still not a UI to interact with
Hmm.
Ethereum. It was all command line. And the moment you say command line, people are already scared. They're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I don't
yeah,
want to
you're
do that. I
literally
don't want."
typing like on the command line of the
Yeah,
monitor. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, and then they were having all these issues, and then I was like, okay, I know enough to put together, because also like none of the libraries existed back then, none of the JavaScript libraries. So like, I basically had to write all those libraries to unlock pre-sale wallet, sign a transaction, and then put together a small UI where I was like, this is the best I can do, and then it kind of like caught on. People like started using it. When I say people, there were probably like not that many, right? It's like maybe 100, 200 users.
Hmm.
And on Reddit, and then that's already big enough. Like for me, I was like, oh, this is a website that I put together. It's easy. And then that's when I was like, hey, Taylor, by the way, she's a designer. She's a web designer. So I was like, hey, if you have some free time, would you mind like doing something for this website? Like if you can change the design, like follow the Reddit, like they're asking for features.
Hmm.
Like if you can make the design, I can. Because at this point, I was still going to school, still working, and then like only time that I had to work on my wallet was like whenever I come back home, maybe like 9 p.m. to like 11 p.m. before I go to sleep, right? Or sometimes it depends. If the feature is very interesting, I might not sleep that night.
Hmm.
But yeah, so uh, and then she was like, and she was doing freelance work. So I was like, okay, I can help you out with your freelance coding stuff, and then you can help me with like the design side of my wallet. And
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like the start.
And you guys had you were trying to figure out what to call it. You told me this story, and I just wanted to hear it from your side. Like you were looking on like GoDaddy or something for
Yeah,
domains,
I mean, we
right?
were going through like, okay, it's what is it basically, right?
Yeah.
EtherWallet, right?
Mm.
And then EtherWallet was taken, and then GoDaddy suggested, how about MyEtherWallet? I was like,
Yeah.
fine, I'll buy MyEtherWallet. Like it's yeah. I'm glad that my it turned out to be MyEtherWallet because now our acronym is MEW, not
Yeah.
EU. Otherwise, it would have been EW.
Yeah. Yeah. Much better. Much better.
Yeah.
And so, but even then, like a lot of the community at this point seems like, you know, a lot of the early users really needed a lot of like they needed their hand to be held and they needed to be walked through a lot of stuff. Do you remember that sort of process and like trying to make things as easy for people as you could to like onboard them into this new thing?
Yeah. So I mean, uh, like Ethereum brought it was I still call it like a trendsetter, right? Before that, like smart contract was not a thing. It
Hmm.
was just Bitcoin and Bitcoin like tokens, right? Like you can only transfer value, like
Yeah.
value tokens. There's nothing, no logic behind any of these. And then Ethereum came on, and then they just like introduced this whole concept of writing programs on blockchain, and that itself is massive. But like very early on, like early days, nobody really cared about that. They just wanted to transfer their ETH, and then Dexus didn't exist, so it's not even like a trading platform yet. So only like transferring from point A to point B, or like sending it to the exchange address so they can get cash
Hmm.
or USD or things like that. So very early on, like yeah, the main problem was okay getting the trust for people because the early investors or like early pre-sale buyers, these 100 or 200 people that we are talking about, they're also very kind of technical, right? This is also like one of the problems we had forever with MyEtherWallet because MyEtherWallet looked like a tool, not like an actual wallet interface. Because
Hmm.
initially when we built it for the developers because that was the 99% of the user base, or like the technical people, not the brand new users
Yeah.
coming into the space. So when we built it as a tool, so it's like easily understandable by the technical users, and then it's easy for us to explain. Oh, by the way, go here, put this code, and then you're good to go. And then MyEtherWallet became a tool to accomplish a lot of things. But like even interacting with contracts, like we were the only tool out there
And
for a while.
yeah, I was just going to say we should say here that this was the first Ethereum wallet, basically. That was
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so that's huge. And it makes sense, I guess, that you would be appealing to the developer community because, like you said, that those are the folks who were making all of this stuff happen at that point.
Yeah, like that was the 99%, and then maybe 1% were like the new users, right? Like they're coming into the space, they just heard about Ethereum, they're like, okay, what do I do? Or you go to my wallet and then follow these like 6 different steps to get something done, which was easy for a technical user, but it was not easy for like a new user. And then we kind of saw over the years, we saw that it's gradually shifting, right? The technical number of technical users are going away, not going away, like the amount is like getting smaller compared to non-technical users.
Hmm.
So now my EtherWallet is mainly built for the 99% of the non-technical users, not the technical users, because there are like hundreds of different tools for a technical user to do anything that they want to accomplish in Ethereum. Now it's like completely shifted the other way around.
Yeah. And this is where I want to say for all our listeners, don't leave your crypto on an exchange. Take it off and put it in your wallet somewhere on the chain or a hardware wallet. Don't be
Yes.
that person that gets their money stolen because the exchange gets hacked. Definitely get a MyEther wallet if you can. So what when did well I'm curious, like there's a lot of different things you've mentioned that, Ethereum was like 100x or 1,000x more like interesting than the Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
kind of use case. But there's a lot like embedded in that. What were the things that like really piqued your interest there? Was it the decentralization possibility or writing code on a blockchain or like what was it that kind of really drew you into it?
like even before, I think like the coding side of definitely intrigued my mind, right? Like I'm like, okay, think about the possibilities. Even like the very simple use cases. For example, before mainnet launch, there was a testnet.
Mhm.
I forgot the name for the testnet,
Was
but
it
there was a
Robston?
testnet. Not no, before Robston actually. Mainnet, there was another one. So before they did that testnet, and then they eventually like killed it, and then continued to mainnet. So I was like one of the few people because so they created that testnet to basically like brute force, meaning try everything that you can think of to break the blockchain, break the Ethereum testnet,
Yeah,
and then
that's when Christoph Jentz he was running that for the foundation, right? Do you remember him?
oh, possible, yeah. I
Yeah,
sorry, I don't remember the names.
he's the guy that created Slockit and ended up writing the code for the DAO. But
Got it.
before that, he was at the foundation, and he was in charge of like the different, he was in charge of the different client teams, and he was like, go try to break the network. We're trying to
Yeah,
make sure that we find all the bugs and make sure that everything's working correctly.
I
To
think the testnet was called Morden, Morden.
okay,
But yeah, and then I was like, and then the biggest problem with this testnet was like, okay, you can brute force it, you can try all these things, but like in order to do it, you need a testnet ETH, and then there was no way of getting testnet ETH.
Mhm.
And then I was like, this is like one of the very first posts I posted on Reddit. I was like, oh, what if I create this like little smart contract, maybe like 20 lines of code, right? You deposit test ETH to that, and then people who need it can get like 10 ETH every 10 test ETH every single time they send a transaction to it. It's
Yeah,
a very simple smart contract, but like it gave the ability for a lot more users to get into the space and then test the testnet.
yeah.
So
It's called a faucet, right? Is that?
faucet, yeah, but like
Yeah,
this was a smart contract based faucet.
yeah.
Um, so I mean, and then like hundreds of users were using that back then, which was amazing, right? Like that, it's just intrigued my. I just wanted to get back in. I was like, oh, I can code even more. But at some point in time, I realized that my coding skills are more necessary on the UX side of things, like
Hmm.
with MyEtherWallet and stuff. And so I kind of moved away from Solidity coding.
Hmm.
So since then, maybe I mean I still write Solidity contracts to like simplify things, but other than that, I don't write like very
So more like
big
applications
contracts.
rather than protocol.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
like let's say like if you need balances from like 100 different accounts, it's easy to do like one call to a Solidity contract and then get the balances
Yeah.
versus like 100 different calls to the node. So yeah, a bit more like yeah, exactly, like application level to simplify things. That like things like that definitely like even though those
S-
are small, at that point in time they were like very major needed requirements for the
mhm.
network, and then
Yeah,
I'm
because
glad I was
everything was
part of
being
it.
built from scratch, right? I mean,
Yeah,
like there was nothing. Yeah, that's what's been fascinating for me as a reporter, is watching this kind of come to life almost in real time. Like all these
yeah,
things are coming to be. So that was around 2015, I think, and then we're getting into 2016, and the DAO happens. It's a huge deal for
yeah.
Ethereum. It draws a lot of attention. Price of Ether finally kind of got off the floor and went up to about $20 right before the hack. What were you thinking back then? Like, how worried were you when the DAO was hacked? And it seems, as I write in my book, it was like seemed like a very pivotal moment, like for this young ecosystem. Ethereum, it wasn't even a year old at that point, and it seemed
Yeah.
like a lot of people felt like this thing could maybe go down in flames. Did you have any thoughts like that?
I'm not gonna say no because like at some point I was like, okay, it's possible that Ethereum will just like, you know, be nothing. But then again, like in a way, at that point in time, this is why like this subject is so controversial because I still believe in like what Ethereum did was right. Because like okay, it's very new, right? Like the whole technology is new, and then there was
Mhm.
this major hack that like took money from all the major investors or like pre-sale buyers at that point.
Yeah,
So in a way, if we continue to be that, we will be where ETC is today. So I don't think there will be enough growth, because the moment it's like, let's say you invest in, I mean, this is the same thing that happened to Concorde, right? All the big players started dying because like Concorde planes started crashing, and and then nobody wants to be on it.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, we don't have a business anymore, so there's no way to like keep Concorde, and then they retired the whole plane. So it would have been kind of something like that, because like if all like the major people like with the money just left because they're like, oh, we just lost millions of dollars on this, and then there's no point of just like continue to back this up. That would have
Yeah.
been devastating for
I
Ethereum.
don't understand. I think you make a great point. Like Ethereum Classic is like the Concorde to me. Like it should be gone, but it's not. Because
Yeah, exactly,
it's
right.
been
Like
51% attacked like numerous times. It's just like
yeah,
what is going on over there? But it's still, it's like you can't kill these blockchain things. They just kind of like become zombies.
yeah. And
But
then ETH proof of work is the next one. Like I don't even know whether it's functioning anymore, but
yeah,
we can talk about it when we get to
I
that.
don't think, yeah, I mean, there was all those threats, like people were going to keep that part of the chain going, right? But I don't, at least as
Yeah.
far as I have heard, that's not happening. Um, okay, so, and then what, so then give me like, because this is something I don't get a lot of opportunity to do, to talk to like people who are creating the infrastructure like you did. Like, what are the ups and downs been for that? Coming out of the DAO, in mid 2016, then into 2017, that's when the ICO, the initial coin offering kind of craze started. Ether went way up. Bitcoin hit $20,000. Huge. That's when I think crypto kind of first became a household word. At least around maybe the
Yeah.
Thanksgiving table. I remember that year in 2017. I just come back to LA and I was in bars around that time, and I would just overhear people talking about crypto at bars. And I was like, this is crazy,
Yeah.
because I've been covering it for 3 years and it had been like definitely under the radar. And now it like burst into the scene. Like for somebody who's building the infrastructure and like, people are relying on you, the wallet is a very important function. It's your gateway to everything, and it holds all your coins. What's that been like? And like, have there been times when you've like really struggled with like technical issues, or like the ups and downs of that? I'd love to hear a little bit more about what that market pressure is like when things are just ramping up, and then again, like kind of the flip side, when it's a crypto winter, like what is it like then as well?
Yeah, no, I mean, we definitely run into a lot of like technical learning curve issues, like in 2017, for example, because like we had an influx of users just immediately because of ICOs, and then we were basically the only wallet that had ERC20 support, which is the token, right? And one time, and then like all these pre-sales or like the crowd ICOs happen within 10 minutes, and then they're already sold out within like 10 minutes. So it's like,
Yeah, a project would raise $50 million in 10 minutes or $100 million.
yeah, and
It was insane.
it was super insane. And the problem is like, this means like we have to support influx of users in like such a small period of time. And then that means like our nodes needed to be up to date, or like we had to put like extra nodes to handle that. I think I forgot the exact ICO, but like one time MyEtherWallet failed because of like too many people, and then our nodes couldn't handle it. And then, it was kind of hard to explain people, oh no, it's because of this. And then after that, I rewrote the whole infrastructure in the back end to support any amount of requests. So after that, it was more of a learning period for us too, because like, how are we going to support this many people in such a short period of time? So, I mean, thankfully now we don't have to worry about any of that, because there are actual node providers out there like Infura, Alchemy, Rivet, you name it, Quick Node. There are like 100 different people, Block Demon, doing exactly what I had to do in 2017 to support the ICO. And then, I mean, we are also using them. So that's not something that we have to worry about anymore. And then also like around the same time, a lot of security around crypto websites like became a thing because like we had to be up to date on like, okay, what are the latest phishing scam? Like there were a million, like it's still up. Even today we used to have two companies actually looking for phishing sites around MyEtherWallet because they all register like MyEtherWallet without Y or like change
Yeah.
it to some like UTF-8 character. So I think we still have around close to 10,000 MyEtherWallet like names that are
Wow.
registered.
Jesus.
um so these are all like phishing attempts, right? Like so we had to be like we had to know what's happening, and then people will also send emails from my EtherWallet or like act like the emails are coming from my EtherWallet and be like, hey, my EtherWallet is upgrading, like please put your private key here or like something
Hmm.
here to support this upgrade or something like that. And then so yeah, like many different ups and downs. And we had to learn from all of it, and then we are still here, so I
Yeah.
believe we did something right.
Yeah. What is your big picture having gone through and been so, I mean, you were working on the Ethereum testnet, as you said, which is amazing. And here you are today, almost 10 years later. Like, what's the, what's the, what's the big picture for you right now in terms of where we are and adoption and where maybe you had hoped things would be and where they are in actuality?
I mean, honestly, I was hoping that POS or ETH merge would have happened like a couple of years before
Hmm.
this year, but totally understand why it took so long. I know all the technical problems, so I understand that it was a necessary step to postpone it and to make sure that everything will go smoothly. And just like that, everything did go smoothly. And then it would have, I mean, only difference would have been like we would have been far ahead of the curve right now, for example, in um maybe scaling problems, right? Like ETH merge was like the next big thing, next big step in order to reduce the scaling problems, and then it just happened, which means like we are at least a year or two away from like these big scaling issues like gas prices, for example.
Yeah.
Like it's still going to happen, and there are a lot of L2s, but like L2s has the liquidity problem. They don't have that much in liquidity for a lot of tokens. So
We've also seen a lot of bridge problems, like that,
yeah.
that
Oh
really
yeah.
does not, that seems like a very much like a weakest link kind of thing.
Yeah, and then who also wants to wait, 5 to 7 days to bridge back? Like, I wish it was kind
Hmm.
of instant, but I mean, I understand the technical problems around it. So I'm not saying, oh, there's a solution, everyone should follow this, but we would have been ahead of finding the proper solution if things happen sooner. But it is what it is. We'll be in a better shape in at least a year or two. I love the
Were
development
were you
around
surprised
Ethereum
that
now.
the Ether went down after the successful proof of stake and the
The
merge?
merge,
Yeah.
uh, I I think like a lot of people were thinking the merge would be like a really big upgrade and like put ETH in like a really good position, but I because like ETH upgrade or the merge wasn't technically nothing to average user because they didn't have to know anything about
Yeah.
the upgrade.
Yeah.
Like
No, I
everything
mean,
went smoothly.
if you
They
knew
didn't
what
have
was
to do
going
anything.
on, it was like
Yeah,
highly kind of uncertain, or like you didn't know, it was going to go as smoothly as it did.
yeah.
Uh, Obviously, bad stuff could have happened. It didn't, and it was actually kind of boring when it all came and went.
Like yeah,
Um,
I saw the panda. I was watching the live stream, and then
mhm.
I saw the panda on my like laptop. Panda is when like actually you would see a panda
Yeah,
image on the screen when the actual merge happened. I saw it on my laptop, but I didn't see it on the live stream. I was like, oh no, something's going wrong. But it happened like literally 3 seconds after. But
I think there
like
was like
it's
50,000 people watching that live stream at that
yeah,
point. Yeah, I
I
was
think
doing, I was
so.
watching that myself.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and I don't mean to discount it like it was boring. It's like that's amazing because I'm very impressed with what the Ethereum community pulled off
Me
in such a
too.
very complicated, coordinated effort among 7 different clients. And like,
Yeah,
it's like really amazing that they did it in real time. Um,
that was amazing.
yeah. And so, how do you talked about something like increasing the scale, like scalability, which is just for
Mm-hmm.
listeners, is like Ethereum still is only at, I want to say 15 to 20 transactions per second, somewhere in that
Yes.
range. And it needs to get into the hundreds of thousands per second if it's going to compete as like a global payments layer. So efforts are underway to like bring that about, but proof of stake wasn't one of those, but it kind of lays the groundwork for other improvements. Maybe like, could you just give us, Kosala, a high level like view of like what are some of the things coming that could help with that scaling?
Yeah, so initially there was this sharding theory or like concept of sharding where like Ethereum chain actually splits into 64 different other chains, and then
Yeah.
each chain is responsible for its own little pocket of transactions. So you can think of it as, oh, we're gonna like 64x the current throughput, right?
And
So
would
which
that
is
have been
good.
like done by geographical region? Like it's like kind of around the world, or is it, would it have been
I
like
think it would have been
transaction
around
specific?
like, yeah, it would have been around certain like contracts, because like it didn't evolve into anything concrete yet, so I
Hmm.
don't know exactly like how the sharding would, like which transaction will go to which. But if I have to make an assumption, that it would be around contracts or like something like that. Oh, like this contract transactions will go to this shard because it's easy, because then that shard is aware of all the contract executions, contract data, and like
Hmm.
storage, all that. um, but recently, Vitalik said that it would be better with like things like ZK rollups and L2 solutions,
Yeah.
which is like for listeners, it's like bundling, let's say, 1,000 transactions into one big transaction and then sending it out on like a layer two solution.
Yeah. So
Um,
a lot of things are taken off chain and they're done on
yeah,
chain, but then those off chain transactions are still put back on chain afterwards. But they don't have to like burden and slow down everything else in the meantime.
exactly. So that's probably the way we are headed, because on like one of the next upgrades, I think Beacon Chain will have this extra space to put like a proof, which is just needed for ZK rollups. So it I like it's, yeah, there are definitely multiple different ways of scaling, but all the solutions actually needed POS to happen, the merge
Yeah.
to happen, other than L2, current L2s, right? So since that now we have this, I think like we have a pretty good way of handling the scaling problems within like few years.
Did you guys at MyEtherWallet have to do anything with the change to proof of stake? Like, did you have to change anything like, under the hood, so to speak, or was it all?
Um, Nothing major for my Ether wallet itself, because like I mentioned, we are using like different node providers now. We
Mhm.
don't handle the node services in-house. But we do have our blockchain explorer, which is ethvm.com. And we for that we had to like um nothing crazy again, but like we had to change the logic a little bit, because now there are no like block reward on validators. It just goes to
Yeah.
the validator, things like that. So we had to make some changes for ETVM, but other than that, no. Like from a company standpoint, it wasn't a major change.
Yeah. And then, well, proof of stake didn't have anything to do with this either, but I think it's helping accelerate it. Is there's the EIP 1559, which was put into place, I believe, last year in 2021.
Yeah.
And part of that is that now, whenever there's an Ethereum transaction, some of the ether that has to be used to fund the transaction is destroyed. It's called
Yeah.
it's burned. And I think just a couple of weeks ago, we hit for the first time after the merge, the first fully deflationary point in the Ethereum network, where more ether was burned than was created through the validator network. What is that? How do you interpret that to like? How do you explain that to people who might not have a huge technical understanding? What do you think that just means in the bigger picture?
it's again like it all comes down to supply and demand, right? Like if like there's so much supply and then not enough demand, the price goes down.
Mhm.
And from market terms, and then if there's like less supply but demand still stays the same, then the price goes up. So like we're finally hitting the point where the ETH is not much ETH is getting created, then it's getting burned. So which means like we are reducing the supply, and then from market terms, like hopefully the users will see the advantage of this in like the near future when there's like the supply is reducing, but like the demand stays the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's pretty good. Like EIP 1559, even though from a user perspective it might be like really confusing, because I was like, why did we remove one variable? Like it was initially gas price, and then I was like, why did we remove two of one variable and then added two extras? Because now there's tip and priority
Mhm.
fees. I mean priority fees and like gas fees. Um, but no, from like a technical perspective and market perspective, I love the idea of burning the gas fees.
Yeah. What so what are you excited about? What plans do you have for MyEtherWallet or like expansion or what are you
Um,
guys, and I apologize, I should know this, but can you hold NFTs in a MyEtherWallet?
yes, my
Yeah.
Interwallet fully supports all NFTs out there. All of our products actually, like Me Wallet is our mobile app. And then ETHVM supports NFTs, which is a blockchain explorer. MyEtherWallet.com does too. And then for my Ether wallet, because it's my Ether wallet is my Ether wallet, right? So we still want to be one of the wallets out there in Ethereum's ecosystem where you can accomplish anything that you want to accomplish in Ethereum ecosystem, and in a safe manner. And then we are still like the wallet interface that supports basically every single wallet type, including like hardware wallets,
Hmm.
mobile wallets, extension wallets, and like even private keys and mnemonics. People do ask me, why are you still supporting private keys and mnemonic? My question back to them is, okay, we were there since like 2015 August, and then there was only keys to files, private keys, and mnemonic back then. And then people who created those wallets still need a way to access their wallet today. And then they only know about MyEtherWallet. The moment MyEtherWallet takes it out, they're gonna go on Google and then search for a wallet that supports Keystore and then or like private keys. The problem with that is that could be a phishing wallet.
Mm.
Like they can immediately lose access. So we are making sure that we like put proper warnings, error messages, all that to make sure like they migrate to another way, like a hardware wallet or encrypt. I'll talk about that in a second. Um, Before we actually take our private keys and mnemonics. So
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, and I'd never heard of this before, but they were talking about a potential move away from that sort of like private key setup where you've got a multi-party compute system,
mhm.
MPC. Um, could you explain that a little bit, or like what? And do you think that's maybe where this all might be headed?
I think it's probably related to account abstraction or like one of those EIPs. I'm not exactly sure which one it is. But yeah, there's this basically an algorithm called Shamir's secret sharing SSS, which allows you to split one private key into n number of pieces.
Hmm.
So you can, let's say you have 30 friends and then you want to split the private key among 30 friends, and then you can define X, which could be, which could be 1 or which could be 30, anywhere in the middle, which means you need either all your friends or few friends to give you a thumbs up before it actually reconstruct the private key back and then give access to the funds.
Yeah, and
So
so this is a
maybe
way.
that's what.
Yeah, I think that's what this person was telling me about, and
Yeah.
it's they basically said it's kind of like you're storing your private key in the cloud, but it's in pieces. And so, as
Yeah.
as listeners probably know, if you lose your private key or somebody gets a hold of it, then you either have lost your funds or you've had them stolen from you, basically. So this is a way I think people are trying to think about, like as we've been talking about kind of through the whole conversation, like what's an easier user experience, like how to make this easier for folks, and maybe this MPC process is something that starts with like maybe a little bit of a centralized thing, like you use, I don't know, Discord or some kind of Facebook thing that helps you like start reconstituting your private key, and then in time you can kind of take it over yourself and handle that, so there's no centralization factor. But I found that just really interesting.
Yeah. It's
um,
I mean, it definitely cool concept. Which I think like a couple of groups are actually like doing it. One good project that I'm aware of is called Web3 Oath.
mm,
That they're doing something similar as well. So yeah, it's I mean, it's a pretty good concept, and but the problem is like still like, do I have that? Or like, even, I mean, I shouldn't say 30 friends, right? It could be like 5 friends that I share my key among.
mm.
And they still need to like figure out ways how to, like you said, is it like through Discord, or is it through like Facebook Messenger, or do they create their own app to like reconstruct this whole process?
Right.
So
But this would
there are
be
some,
a pretty good, like we've been talking about phishing, right? And you're saying about how
yeah.
many sites are out there trying, and a phishing scam is basically they're just trying to get your private key any way they can. And so I would
Yeah.
imagine this would help guard people against
Oh,
that.
100%.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
If you're directly using a private key, right? But like if, for example, if you have a hardware wallet or something, it, the best case still is the hardware wallet, and then you can use, like, for example, Me Wallet and multiple other mobile applications make use of the smartphone secure enclave,
Mhm.
so which kind of never like lets your keys out. So you can use that. Extensions are doing a pretty good job. Like, we released Encrypt recently, which is ENKRYPT. It's a Web3 extension for Ethereum and Polkadot ecosystem. And then we are going to add more and more chains like Bitcoin in the future, Solana, Arbitrum, all those like different. So our goal is to, like, right now, like, moving away from, still like all the MyEtherWallet products are completely focused on Ethereum, and we want to keep continuing adding features to the Ethereum ecosystem. But like, as a company, we want to grow out of like Ethereum ecosystem as well, because as much as I love Ethereum, I did not want to move away from Ethereum in the past, but like now I'm starting to understand that even when Ethereum is at its best, right? Like, let's say like 50 years from now, there'll still be other blockchains that offer different set of features,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I think,
users still needs to use that set of features.
yeah, I've
And
never envisioned a future where there was just one chain. I think
yeah,
it's always
so
going to be a lot of different chains that can interoperate, because one chain is going to do something well and another chain is going to do a different thing well, and that's fine. You know, it's
yeah,
like a roadway system. There's a driveway versus an interstate. You do different things on each. And so
exactly. Yeah, so yeah, I'm finally starting to understand that. And then
yeah,
that's why we created Encrypt, which is, it's in a way you can think of it as just keep remember, or like have one mnemonic which will give access to all the different blockchains, because
mhm,
like the future that I'm envisioning, users will not even know what blockchain they're interacting with. Like, for example, like before, Netflix used to say, oh, we are using AWS, we are using this for this, and then, but like now nobody cares.
yeah.
Like, they could be using Google, they could be using AWS or a hybrid.
Yeah, I think that's
It's
absolutely
gonna
the
be like
goal. Is you
that.
don't want the common user to have any idea how the back end works. You just want it to
Yeah.
work. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in order to facilitate that, we cannot like make users install 5 different wallets
Mm.
to interact with 5 different apps and 5 different networks. So
Yeah.
kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Kosala, thank you so much for this. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and thank you for opening up about your story and sharing that with me. Um, Tell people how they can find you, or a little bit more about where they can find My Ether Wallet.
Yeah. And again, thank you so much for having me, Matt. You can our Twitter is like the main way of contacting us, or like tag us, DM us. It's at MyEtherWallet. Make sure you see the verified sign. Or you can email us at support at myetherwallet.com. The blue check mark.
The blue check mark.
And then you can reach out at support@myetherwallet.com if you have any questions. My Twitter username is at kvhnuke NUKE_. I do not have a verified sign, so it's probably better if you message
I'll have
at
to get you one.
MyEtherWallet.
I've got one. I might have a spare one in my back pocket. I can loan you.
Oh, you do? That'll be awesome.
Yeah. One of the perks of working at Bloomberg News for a long time was I got a verified account. But
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
My oldest son's friends all make fun of me because I'm verified on Twitter. They think that's like super lame.
They don't like the verified?
No, I don't know. For some reason, they think it's hilarious that I'm verified on Twitter. And
verified?
I don't quite understand it. Yeah.
That's funny.
And lastly, and I'm sure, I think I know the answer to this question, but is your mom okay with you not being a doctor these days?
She was very supportive the moment I decided I'm going to move to US. I was like, I have to do this. I have to be an engineer. My mom was like, I understand. And ever since then, she's extremely supportive. She's still in Sri Lanka, but I'm hoping she's proud of me.
Oh, I can't imagine she's not, Kosala. So again, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a really pleasure talking to you. And hopefully we will meet someday in person here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you so much for having me again.
That's it for this episode of Decent People. We are produced by Matt Solon. Music is courtesy of Brian Duncan and Kareem Imes. Take care.